Today we're taking this unfinished tabletop and turning it into this. Quick disclaimer, I am not an expert, this is just my favorite way to do it. The tabletop I'm finishing in this video is the Gurton from IKEA. But this method will also work with any solid wood tabletop, including ones you make yourself. We will start by removing the two support rails on the underside and give them to someone who will keep them safe. The factory surface is already pretty smooth, but I like to go over it with some high grain sandpaper. Anything like 220 grit or higher would work. The higher the grain, the less aggressive the sandpaper. You can use a sanding sponge, make your own sanding block, or use a random orbital sander if you have one. They will all achieve the same result, the only factor being how much time it takes. The most important thing to remember here is to never go against the grain. Keep the direction in which you sand at parallel with the lines of the glue joints. To clean off all the dust, I like to use a brush and then come back with a lint-free cloth and wipe off the excess. A tack cloth would be ideal in this situation, but I did not have any on hand. This Varathane wood stain has become my favorite over the years, but I would put it more on the intermediate scale. It is not harder to apply, it is simply easier to make mistakes with. I will include a link down in the description as well as some other alternatives. Use a foam brush to apply a thick coat of the stain over one manageable section of the table, and then immediately wipe it off with a clean rag. And all this time, don't forget the first rule of woodworking. Never go against the grain. Here you can see exactly how the direction in which you wipe affects the final outcome. Another useful tip I can give you is to practice on the underside first. This will give you a very good practice run before moving on to the top. After letting the table sit overnight, I came back with some water-based polyurethane, which dries in about 20 minutes in between coats, as opposed to the oil-based polyurethane, which takes up to 24 hours. Use a high-quality but soft brush to apply the polyurethane. I have one set aside for this exact purpose. Saturate your brush and start from the middle of the table, working your way to each side, and then come back on your stroke. After doing 2 strokes, I like to come back with a feathering stroke and lightly feather the area. This does exactly what you think, it just makes the whole area uniform. If you get any dripping, just try to work it back into the paint or clean it with a paper towel. It's also very useful to put a light behind where you're working. This way you can see exactly what's going on. For the sides, I switched to a foam brush. It's a lot easier to get precise application. We're gonna do a total of 3 coats, and in between coats, it's a good idea to store your brushes in a sealed bag. And here's what it looks like after the first coat. After 20 minutes or so, come back with a 320 sandpaper and very, very lightly sand the surface and clean it for the next coat. Here's what it looks like after the second coat. After you're done applying your coats, you can wash your brush with dish soap and water to get it ready for next time.